The final stages of their plan unfolded with painstaking precision. Dr. Elias Venn and Lysara worked tirelessly, combining human ingenuity with Zetherian technology to replicate the artifact's energy signature. The cavern hummed with activity as machines whirred and data streamed across holographic displays. Each step forward brought them closer to success, but also closer to failure if even one calculation was off. As the synthetic replica took shape, tension lingered between them. Though they had reached an uneasy truce, trust remained fragile. Elias couldn't shake the fear that Lysara might revert to her original plan if their efforts fell short. For her part, Lysara wrestled with doubts about whether humanity could truly deliver on its promise. Yet despite these uncertainties, they pressed on, united by a shared goal. Finally, after days of relentless work, the moment of truth arrived. The replica, a pulsating orb of light encased in a crystalline shell, was ready. With bated breath, they activated it, directing its energy toward a simulated star system created using Lysara's advanced equipment. The results were immediate. The unstable model stabilized, its chaotic fluctuations calming into a steady rhythm. "It works," Lysara whispered, awe breaking through her usually composed exterior. She turned to Elias, her glowing eyes reflecting gratitude and relief. "You've done it." Elias exhaled deeply, allowing himself a small smile. "We did it," he corrected gently. "This wasn't just my victory. It was ours." Lysara nodded, her expression softening further. For the first time since their journey began, she seemed unburdened, as though a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "I misjudged you," she admitted quietly. "When I first came here, I saw only what I needed to see, but you've shown me another way, one built on trust and cooperation." Her words struck a chord within Elias. Despite everything they'd been through, the mistrust, the arguments, the moments of doubt, he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. They had bridged not just two worlds but two perspectives, proving that collaboration could overcome even the starkest differences. Before departing, Lysara made a gesture of goodwill. Using her ship's technology, she transmitted knowledge to humanity, scientific advancements, medical breakthroughs, and insights into interstellar diplomacy. In return, Elias promised to continue fostering understanding between their species, ensuring this alliance would endure long after she left. As they stood together outside the cavern, bathed in the light of Proxima Centauri B's twin moons, Lysara prepared to depart. "Thank you, Elias," she said sincerely. "Not just for saving my people, but for believing in something greater than yourself." Elias smiled faintly, his heart heavy with the knowledge that their paths might never cross again. "Take care of your world," he replied. "And maybe someday our stars will align once more." With a final nod, Lysara stepped into the shimmering portal, vanishing in a flash of light. As the hum faded and silence returned, Elias gazed up at the night sky, feeling a renewed sense of hope. Their journey had been fraught with challenges, but it had also forged a bond that transcended galaxies. Though separated by vast distances, Elias knew their actions had planted seeds of unity. Where there had once been fear and mistrust, now lay the potential for peace, and as he walked back toward the colony, ready to share their story with the world, Elias couldn't help but wonder what other wonders awaited among the stars. Dr. Elias Venn had always been a man of science, someone who trusted numbers and logic over gut feelings. But lately, something felt off. It wasn't the kind of thing he could easily explain to his colleagues at the Proxima Centauri B colony. At first, it was subtle, a fleeting shadow out of the corner of his eye or the faint hum of something mechanical when no machines were running nearby. He told himself it was nothing, just his mind playing tricks after too many late nights studying alien communication signals. But then, the sensation grew stronger. It started happening more often, at the lab, during his walks back to his quarters, even in the middle of crowded gatherings. It was like being watched by invisible eyes, an unsettling pressure that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. One evening, as he sat alone in his office reviewing data, Elias decided enough was enough. He turned off all the lights except for one dim lamp and waited. Minutes ticked by, and just as he began to doubt himself, there it was again, a flicker of movement outside the window. His heart raced as he stood up slowly, careful not to make any noise. The window overlooked a small courtyard surrounded by dense shrubs and trees native to this alien world. Nothing seemed out of place, but the feeling lingered. Gathering his courage, Elias grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The cold night air bit at his skin as he scanned the area, shining the light into every shadowy corner. Still, nothing. He almost convinced himself it was paranoia until he saw them. Two glowing blue orbs staring back at him from behind a tree. They blinked once, then disappeared into the darkness. Elias froze, his breath catching in his throat. Whatever, or whoever, it moved faster than anything human. His instincts screamed at him to run, but instead, he stood rooted to the spot, trying to process what he'd just seen. The next morning, Elias reviewed security footage from the previous night. There, clear as day, was proof that something unnatural had been watching him. A figure cloaked in shimmering fabric stood just beyond the glass, its face obscured but its presence undeniable. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished, leaving no trace behind. Elias knew he couldn't ignore this anymore. Something, or someone, was following him, and it wasn't human. What did they want? Why him? And most importantly, how long had they been watching? For now, answers eluded him. All he knew was that the gaze, cold, calculating, and unrelenting, had changed everything. Whatever this was, it wasn't going away anytime soon. Dr. Elias Ven's mind raced as he processed Lysara's revelation. The Zitherians were dying, their star collapsing under forces they couldn't control. And somehow he, a mere human scientist, was tied to their survival. It was both humbling and terrifying. Yet despite his suspicions, Elias couldn't ignore the opportunity before him. A chance to bridge two species, to prove that cooperation could transcend fear and mistrust. Lysara returned the next evening, her presence as commanding as ever. This time, she didn't vanish immediately. Instead, she explained more about her mission. Deep beneath Proxima Centauri B's surface lay an ancient artifact, a relic from a long-lost civilization. According to Zitherian legends, it held the key to stabilizing unstable stars. For centuries, her people had searched for it across galaxies, but all clues pointed here, to this colony, to ***. Elias listened intently, though skepticism lingered in his chest. If this artifact is so powerful, he asked cautiously, why hasn't anyone found it yet? Lysara's expression hardened, because finding it requires understanding its language, its codes. Your work on interspecies communication makes you uniquely qualified to decipher them. The weight of her words settled over him like a heavy blanket. If what she said was true, then humanity might hold the key to saving an entire empire. But at what cost? What if removing the artifact disrupted Proxima Centauri B's delicate ecosystem? What if the Zitherians weren't as altruistic as they claimed? Despite his doubts, Elias agreed to help. He couldn't turn away from the possibility of forging peace between humans and aliens. Together, they prepared for the journey into the planet's untamed wilderness, where the artifact supposedly lay buried. Lysara provided advanced tools, devices far beyond human technology, that would aid in locating the relic. In return, Elias shared insights about the planet's terrain, ensuring their path would avoid natural hazards like sinkholes and predatory wildlife. The expedition began under the pale glow of twin moons. The forest stretched endlessly around them, dense and alive with strange sounds. As they trekked deeper, Elias noticed how Lysara moved with grace and purpose, her shimmering armor blending seamlessly with the shadows. She carried herself like a leader, yet there were moments when her guard slipped, revealing glimpses of vulnerability. Once, while crossing a narrow ridge, She paused and whispered something in her native tongue. Elias didn't understand the words, but the tone spoke volumes. Fear, hope, desperation. Their bond deepened during quiet moments. They exchanged stories. Elias spoke of Earth's struggles, the wars, the environmental collapse, humanity's fragile steps toward unity. Lysera recounted tales of her homeworld, its beauty now fading under the shadow of doom. Hearing her speak so openly softened some of Elias's distrust, though questions still lingered. On the third day, they reached a clearing marked by towering stone monoliths etched with glowing symbols. These matched the ones Elias had seen earlier, pulsating faintly as if alive. Lysera knelt beside one, running her fingers over the markings. "We're close," she murmured, her voice tinged with awe. But danger loomed nearby. A low growl echoed through the trees, followed by the sound of snapping branches. Something large was approaching, something not meant to be disturbed. Elias gripped his flashlight tightly, adrenaline coursing through him. Whatever awaited them, it was clear this journey wouldn't end without a fight. As Lysera stood protectively in front of him, Elias realized their partnership had shifted. No longer just observer and subject, they were allies bound by shared stakes. Whether they succeeded or failed, their fates were intertwined now. The growl echoed again, louder this time, sending shivers down Dr. Elias Ven's spine. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike anything he'd ever seen, its body sleek and reptilian, its eyes glowing with predatory hunger. It moved silently despite its size, muscles rippling beneath iridescent scales. Elias froze, his mind screaming at him to run, but Lysera stepped forward without hesitation. "Stay behind me," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. With a swift motion, she activated a device on her wrist, emitting a high-pitched frequency that made the creature recoil. Its roar turned into a screech as it retreated into the forest, leaving them alone once more. Elias exhaled sharply, his heart still racing. "That was something," he muttered, glancing nervously at the trees where the creature had vanished. Lysera didn't respond immediately. Instead, she turned back to the monoliths, her focus unwavering. "We don't have much time," she said finally. "If we're going to find the artifact, we need to move quickly." As they continued deeper into the clearing, Elias noticed subtle changes in Lysera's demeanor. She became quieter, more distant, often disappearing for short periods under the pretense of scouting ahead. Each time she returned, her expression grew graver, as though burdened by thoughts she refused to share. Suspicion began creeping back into Elias's mind. Was she hiding something? One evening, while setting up camp near another cluster of ancient stones, Elias decided to investigate further. Using a small handheld scanner, one of the tools Lysera had provided, he intercepted fragments of her communications. Her voice came through faintly, distorted but clear enough to catch key phrases. Asterisk unstable environment. Asterisk risk too great. Asterisk Earth's resources. Asterisk. His blood ran cold. Earth. What did his home planet have to do with any of this? The pieces slowly fell into place. Lysera wasn't just here to save her people. She was planning something far bigger, and it involved exploiting humanity's assets. Anger bubbled inside him, mixing with betrayal. How could he have trusted her so easily? When Lysera returned, Elias confronted her directly. "What are you really after?" he demanded, holding up the scanner as evidence. "You're not just here for the artifact, are you?" Lysera hesitated, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly. For a moment, she looked almost guilty. Then her expression hardened. "You wouldn't understand," she said coolly. "My people are dying. If saving them means making sacrifices elsewhere, then so be it. So you'd risk destroying my world to save yours?" Elias shot back, his voice rising. "How does that fare?" "It's survival." Lysera snapped, her composure cracking for the first time. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I enjoy lying to someone who has helped me?" But I don't have a choice." Her words hung heavy in the air. Elias felt torn between fury and sympathy. He wanted to believe her, to trust that she was acting out of desperation rather than malice, but her plans threatened everything he held dear. Before either of them could say more, the ground beneath them trembled violently. A section of earth split open, revealing a cavern aglow with pulsating light. At its center lay the artifact, a crystalline structure humming with raw energy. Lysara stared at it, her resolve hardening once again. "This ends now," she declared, stepping toward the entrance. "With or without your help." Elias knew he couldn't let her take the artifact. Not like this. Whatever happened next, he vowed to protect both worlds, even if it meant standing against the woman he'd started to care for. The unsettling discovery left Dr. Elias Venn with more questions than answers. He replayed the security footage over and over, staring at the cloaked figure that had vanished into thin air. Whoever, or whatever, they clearly didn't want to be seen. But why? Why target him specifically? The thought gnawed at him, keeping him awake long after the colony's artificial sun dimmed for the night cycle. Determined to uncover the truth, Elias decided to take matters into his own hands. He set up a makeshift surveillance system around his home, a combination of motion sensors, infrared cameras, and audio recorders. If this mysterious watcher returned, he'd catch them in the act. For days, nothing happened. Life went on as usual, analyzing data, attending meetings, and pretending everything was normal. Yet, deep down, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking just out of sight. Then, one evening, the alarms blared. Elias rushed to his monitors, heart pounding. The motion sensors had detected movement near the edge of the forest surrounding the colony. On the screen, he saw something strange, a shimmering silhouette moving between the trees. It wasn't solid like a person. Instead, it flickered like heat waves on a summer day. Just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure vanished, leaving behind only static on the camera feed. Frustrated but intrigued, Elias grabbed a flashlight and headed outside. His rational mind screamed at him to stay put, but curiosity got the better of him. The forest loomed ahead, dark and foreboding under the pale glow of Proxima Centauri B's twin moons. As he stepped closer to where the sensors had triggered, he noticed something odd etched into the bark of a nearby tree, symbols unlike anything he'd ever seen before. They glowed faintly, pulsating with an otherworldly light. Before he could examine them further, a soft whisper echoed through the trees. Asterisk, you've been chosen. Asterisk. The voice was calm yet commanding, speaking perfect English with an accent Elias couldn't place. He spun around, shining his flashlight wildly. But there was no one there. Panic set in as the words repeated themselves, louder this time. Without thinking, Elias turned and ran back toward the safety of his home. Once inside, he locked the door and tried to steady his breathing. What did chosen mean? Chosen for what? Sleep eluded him that night, his mind racing with possibilities. By morning, however, doubt began creeping in. Had he imagined the whole thing? Was stress finally getting to him? Later that day, while reviewing old research files, Elias stumbled upon something startling. The symbols carved into the tree matched ancient glyphs found on artifacts recovered during humanity's first contact missions with alien civilizations. This wasn't paranoia. It was real. Someone, or something, had marked him. And if they'd gone through all this trouble to get his attention, they weren't going to stop anytime soon. That realization sent chills down his spine. Whatever was watching him knew exactly who he was. And now, it seemed, they wanted him to know it too. Dr. Elias Venn couldn't shake the feeling that he was being toyed with. Every moment of silence felt heavier than the last, like a storm brewing just beyond his reach. He spent hours poring over the alien symbols etched into the tree bark, comparing them to every database and archive he could access. The more he studied, the clearer it became. They weren't random markings. These were deliberate, part of a language far older than humanity's presence on Proxima Centauri b. But understanding their meaning proved elusive. Frustrated and sleep-deprived, Elias began questioning whether he should report what was happening. Would anyone believe him? Or would they dismiss him as some crackpot chasing shadows in the woods? Still, keeping quiet wasn't an option anymore. This mystery had already seeped too deeply into his life. Late one night, while hunched over his desk decoding fragments of the glyphs, something extraordinary happened. A low hum filled the air, growing louder until it vibrated through the walls of his lab. Startled, Elias looked up just in time to see the room bathed in shimmering blue light. Before he could react, a swirling portal materialized inches from where he sat. It pulsed rhythmically, as if alive, before spilling out a figure cloaked in iridescent fabric. Elias stumbled back, nearly knocking over his chair. His heart thundered in his chest as the figure stepped forward, revealing itself fully. Beneath the hood stood a woman, or at least something resembling one. Her skin shimmered faintly, reflecting hues of silver and violet. Piercing blue eyes locked onto his, radiating intelligence and authority. Around her neck hung an intricate pendant glowing softly, matching the eerie luminescence of the symbols he found earlier. "I am Lysera," she said, her voice smooth yet commanding. She spoke without hesitation or uncertainty, each word perfectly enunciated. "Princess of the Zitharian Empire." Elias blinked, struggling to process what was happening. "You've been watching me?" he managed to ask, his voice shaky. Lysera tilted her head slightly, studying him with an intensity that made him feel exposed. "Yes," she replied simply. Then, without another word, she turned and walked toward the portal. As quickly as she had appeared, she vanished, leaving Elias alone once again. For several minutes he stared at the empty space where she had stood, trying to make sense of what he'd just witnessed. Had that really happened, or was exhaustion finally catching up to him? But the lingering hum in the air and the faint scent of ozone told him otherwise. Over the next few days, Elias noticed subtle changes. Lights flickered when he entered certain rooms. Equipment malfunctioned inexplicably. And always, there was that gaze, the same cold, calculating stare following him wherever he went. Lysera hadn't disappeared completely. She was still watching, observing silently from afar. Though fear lingered, curiosity burned brighter within him. Who were the Zitharians? Why had they sent their princess to observe him? Most importantly, why did she call herself royalty? Questions swirled endlessly in his mind, driving him to dig deeper. For now, answers remained frustratingly out of reach. But one thing was certain: this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. As Elias prepared for bed that night, he glanced out the window uneasily. Somewhere out there, hidden among the stars, Lysera waited. Whatever game she was playing, Elias knew one truth: he was no longer just a spectator. He was part of it now. Days turned into weeks, and Lysera's presence became both a constant and an enigma in Dr. Elias Ven's life. She appeared sporadically, sometimes materializing silently in his lab, other times vanishing before he could even ask a question. Each encounter left him with more questions than answers. Her reasons for observing him remained unclear, though she hinted at her interest in his work on interspecies linguistics. "She's not here to harm you," Elias tried convincing himself one evening as he reviewed notes from their brief interactions. But deep down, doubt gnawed at him. Why would an alien princess, a member of what seemed like an advanced civilization, care about a lone astrophysicist on a distant colony? Despite his unease, Elias couldn't deny the growing fascination between them. Lysera's intelligence was undeniable. Her knowledge of languages, cultures, and technologies surpassed anything humanity had achieved. Yet for all her brilliance, she carried an air of mystery that made it impossible to fully trust her. Her cryptic remarks only added fuel to the fire. "You've been chosen," she'd said during one visit, echoing the words Elias heard in the forest. When pressed for clarification, She simply smiled faintly and disappeared again. Chosen for what? Was this some grand cosmic plan, or was she merely toying with him? The tension grew thicker when rumors began spreading around the colony. Someone had spotted strange lights near Elias's quarters late at night. Others whispered about the man who talks to aliens. At first, Elias dismissed it as idle gossip, until government officials started showing up unannounced, asking pointed questions about his recent activities. Just routine checks, they claimed, but their probing tone suggested otherwise. Elias knew better than to mention Lysara outright. Instead, he played along, feigning ignorance while secretly wondering if she was somehow involved in drawing attention to him. One evening, after another fruitless day dodging prying eyes, Elias decided to confront Lysara directly. He waited patiently in his lab, staring at the spot where the portal usually formed. Hours passed, but eventually, the familiar shimmering light returned, and Lysara stepped through. "You're putting me in danger," Elias blurted out before she could speak. His voice trembled with frustration. "People are watching me now. They think I'm hiding something." Lysara regarded him coolly, her glowing pendant casting soft shadows across her face. "I never promised safety," she replied evenly. "Only purpose." "What does that even mean?" Elias demanded, taking a step closer. "Why are you here? What do you want from me?" For the first time, Lysara hesitated. Her gaze softened slightly, betraying a flicker of vulnerability beneath her regal exterior. "My people are dying," she admitted quietly. "Our star is collapsing, and we seek salvation. You have skills we need." Elias blinked, stunned by her candor. "So you've been spying on me because you think I can help save your empire?" "It's more complicated than that," Lysara said, her tone firm once again. "But yes, you hold pieces of the puzzle we require." Her admission should have brought clarity, but instead, it deepened Elias's suspicion. If the Zitharians were desperate enough to send their princess on such a mission, what lengths would they go to achieve their goals? And how much of this so-called salvation truly benefited humanity? Before Elias could press further, Lysara raised a hand, silencing him. "Enough for tonight," she said. With a final glance, she stepped back into the portal, leaving Elias alone with his swirling thoughts. As the hum faded and the room returned to silence, Elias realized something crucial. Trust wasn't given, it had to be earned. Whether Lysara intended to deceive him or genuinely sought cooperation remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: he couldn't afford to let his guard down. Not yet. The cavern pulsed with an otherworldly energy, casting eerie shadows on the walls as Dr. Elias Venn and Lysara stood face to face. The air was thick with tension, each heartbeat echoing like a drum in the silence. Lysara reached for the artifact, her glowing pendant resonating with its hum, but Elias stepped forward, blocking her path. "You can't just take it," he said firmly, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "If you remove it, you could destroy this planet, and mine." Lysara's eyes burned with frustration. "You don't understand what's at stake," she retorted sharply. "My people are running out of time. Without this artifact, my empire will collapse, and billions will die. Is that what you want?" Elias shook his head, refusing to back down. "I'm not saying your people don't deserve help, but there has to be another way. A solution that doesn't put two worlds at risk." For a moment, they locked gazes, neither willing to yield. Then, unexpectedly, Lysara sighed and lowered her hand. Her shoulders slumped slightly, the weight of her burden evident. She turned away from the artifact and walked to the edge of the cavern, staring into the glowing crystal as if searching for answers within its depths. "I never wanted this," she admitted softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "When I was chosen for this mission, I thought I could save everyone. My family, my people, even those who doubted me. But now," she paused, swallowing hard, "now I see how impossible it is." Elias listened intently, sensing the vulnerability beneath her regal exterior. He took a cautious step closer. "Tell me everything," he urged gently. "Maybe together we can find a better solution." Lysara hesitated before speaking again. "The artifact isn't just a tool. It's part of a larger system. It stabilizes stars by channeling their energy, but removing it disrupts the balance. That's why no one has dared touch it for millennia." Her gaze met his, filled with guilt and desperation. "But my advisors told me it's our only hope. They said sacrifices must be made for survival." Elias nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of her dilemma. "What if we replicate its effects instead?" he suggested. "Your technology is advanced enough to analyze its energy signature. Mine might be able to recreate it synthetically. We could stabilize your star without taking the artifact." A flicker of hope crossed Lysara's face, quickly replaced by skepticism. "Do you really think that's possible?" "It's risky," Elias admitted, "but it's worth trying. If we succeed, both our worlds win. If we fail—" He trailed off, unwilling to finish the sentence. Lysara stared at him for a long moment, weighing his words. Finally, she nodded. "All right," she said quietly. "We'll try your way. But if this fails, I won't hesitate to do what needs to be done." With that uneasy agreement, they set to work. Using Lysara's tools and Elias's expertise, they began analyzing the artifact's energy patterns. Hours passed as they collaborated, their movements synchronized despite their earlier conflict. Slowly, a plan began to take shape, one rooted in trust, compromise, and shared determination. As dawn broke over Proxima Centauri b, casting golden light into the cavern, Elias allowed himself a small spark of optimism. For the first time since meeting Lysara, he felt they were truly working as equals. But deep down, he knew the hardest challenges still lay ahead. Would their fragile alliance hold, or would desperation drive them apart once more? Only time would tell.